Hello everyone, Coach Rebecca here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to set up your budget. Okay, so first things first, if you haven't already, make sure you download my 16-page bulletproof budget workbook. This is going to take you step by step everything that you need to do to set your budget up. And additionally, it's gonna give you some guidance on how to set up your savings structure as well. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'm going to go over some different items just so you have a better understanding of what it takes to set up your budget. You can do a monthly budget, you can do a weekly budget, and you can even set up an annual budget. So for the purposes of today's video, we're gonna talk more along the lines of a monthly budget, and then I will talk to you in another video about how you can set up a weekly and an annual budget as well. So first things first, how do you track your budget? Well, there are many different budgeting apps that you can utilize to help you along the way. One of my favorite ones that I've used for the longest time is Mint.com, and it is a free budgeting app, and it's perfect because it attaches to your bank account, which allows you to easily assign transactions to the different budget categories. Similarly, I also use the EveryDollar budget app, which is through Dave Ramsey. And that budget app is actually more streamlined compared to the Mint.com. However, the free version only allows you to manually enter your transactions, and the paid version allows you to sync your bank account so you can assign transactions to your budget categories easily. There's also the You Need a Budget app, which is very intuitive, and I would say that's probably for our more advanced budget app users. I personally have not used it myself, but I know it is a very popular budgeting app and many people just rave about it. So if you have any questions or are curious about how the You Need a Budget app works, you can follow them on Instagram. And additionally, if you are more of a manual budget tracker, you are more of a pen to paper type of person, make sure you follow Budget Mama on Instagram and YouTube, and she has an amazing budget workbook that you can purchase that allows you to create your own handwritten budget. All right, so what do you need to include in your budget? So to start, you need to include your income, and that's gonna be your net income. And so that means it's going to be what you take home after taxes and health insurance and all of that is taken out. Additionally, what I strongly recommend that you do is that you make sure you are budgeting your base pay only. So if you or your LEO tends to work overtime, make sure you're not factoring that overtime in your initial budget, mainly because that overtime is not guaranteed and is not consistent. And so what you want to do is have that overtime money supplement your income and not supplant your income. Meaning you want to make sure that all of your expenses that you have on a regular basis are fully covered under your base pay, and then that overtime money can be used for all of your extras. Now, in terms of expenses, I like to start with what I call the 4 walls. And the 4 walls include your mortgage or rent, utilities, food, and transportation. Now by transportation, I mean just the gas alone, not if you have any kind of auto loan that you're paying on. So the transportation piece in terms of the 4 walls is strictly gas. And then for the food piece, do not include your restaurants in this part of the budget. The 4 walls is essentially your necessities, what you need to survive as a human being. Then you're going to be budgeting your debts. That's going to be your car loans, your credit cards, any types of student loans, personal loans, mortgage, so on and so forth. And then once you have those categories written out, you're going to go ahead and budget all of your extras. And so that's going to be any type of shopping that you might be doing for the month outside of groceries. It could be extracurricular activities. It could be that Starbucks budget. I mean, I had one. I still have one. I'm talking about streaming services and subscriptions and any type of travel that you're gonna do. Your extra expense categories can be as long or as short as you want. It really just depends on how intensely you want to track where your money's going. So before we move forward, I want to introduce you to a couple terms. Number one, fixed expense. Number two, variable expense. So your fixed expense are your easiest expenses to budget because they are the exact same each month. Think about your minimum payments due for your debts. Probably your rent or your mortgage is going to stay consistent each month. Your car insurance, things like that. You can count on what the cost of those items are going to be each month. You already know it's easy to budget. Now, a variable expense is something that you know you are going to be spending your money on that month, but you might not know exactly how much. Now, this is the area where most people trip up in their budget. The reason people tend to trip up in this area is because variable expenses are very easy to go over budget on, mainly because of the fact that you can't predict what you're going to spend. Now, the thing that I want to make you aware of is that if you go over on a variable budget, don't worry. What you need to do is just take a look at your budget overall and look at some of your other variable budget categories and just reduce one of those budget categories and increase the variable budget category that you did go over. Your budget is meant to be flexible. It's meant to move with you throughout the month and be adjusted as you go through your day-to-day activities. That being said, you need to make sure that you are not spending more than the income that you have budgeted for the month. Your budget should balance out to zero. This is called a zero-sum budget. And so basically, when you go to set up your budget, you are going to take your total net income for the month minus all of your expense budget categories, and that should equal zero. Now, I will preface this by saying that that does not mean your bank account hits zero. This is just you budgeting your money, setting intentions for how you want to spend your money, and tracking it throughout the month to make sure you're falling in line with your goals. That being said, in a later video, I will be talking to you about weekly budgets. So if your household receives paychecks more than once a month, you're also going to want to set up a weekly budget to make sure that all of your bills and expenses are in line with the paychecks in which they are intended for you to spend. Now, let's get your budget set up. So whatever budget app or budget tool you're going to be using to track your budget, the very first thing you need to do is you need to write your income or enter your income at the top. And most budget apps are set up this way where the income is at the very top. If you are unsure of what your total monthly income is, make sure you refer to my Bulletproof Budget Workbook, and that's going to give you some calculations based on the type of paychecks that you receive each month. Now, once you have your income situated, then you're gonna move on to your expenses. Now remember, I said we're gonna budget our four walls first, and that means your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, your food, and your transportation. Then we're gonna move on to our debts. In this area, we're just going to budget first our minimum payment. So this means that this is the minimum payment due in order for that account not to go delinquent. We'll discuss additional debt repayment options later on in the video. After you have your debts all assigned, you're gonna move on to all of your other extra categories. So this is going to be any types of streaming services, fun money, your travel expenses, clothing, things of that nature. These are all going to be variable expenses for the most part. So make sure that you set your intentions that you may not hit your budget amount on the nose for these categories, but you do have some flexibility in terms of moving money around within your variable budgets. So once you have all of your expenses written down and money assigned to each category, make sure you take your total income and minus all of the expenses and see if that equals zero. If it does not, and you still have money left over to budget, this is where you want to start applying that extra money towards your debts to spend down your debts. You can apply it to savings to start saving up for any of those savings goals you might have, or you can just use it on fun. Hey, maybe you even want to donate some of it. The point being is that whatever money is left over after you budget all of those expense categories, you get to do whatever you want with it. That means that money is there specifically to go towards your priorities. Now, if you take your income and minus all of your expense budgets and somehow you come up in the negative, so there's a couple things that you're going to want to do. Number one is you're going to want to look for any fat that can be trimmed within your budgets. For example, if you've budgeted $100 for the month for Starbucks runs, you might want to take that down a little bit. The point being here is you just want to go back through your budgets and see what you have in your budget that does not align with your priorities and get you to your goal. And then if that still doesn't work, if that still doesn't get you to a zero balance, what you might have to do is look into taking some overtime and or getting a small part-time job just to help supplement your income a little bit until you can get your finances back on track. Hopefully this video, along with the Bulletproof Budget Workbook, has helped you to successfully set up your budget. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. And like always, please make sure you hit like on this video and hit subscribe down below, and I will catch you next time.